Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here today to give you a review of yet another adapter that enables you to get autofocus with your Canon EF mount lenses and EFS, as we're going to discover, on Sony FE bodies, and that would be true either on full frame or APS-C. And so I have tested this on 3 different camera bodies, on a Sony a6500, and that's an APS-C model. I've then also tested on both the Sony a7R Mark III and Sony a7 Mark III cameras, which are full frame cameras. I must be an optimist because I always believe the marketing that the next adapter that comes out is going to be the one that gives you performance very similar to native glass with adapted lenses. And while there certainly are a lot of positives on adapting lenses to Sony FE mount, I'm afraid to say that the adapter I'm here to review today, which is the Commlite, this is their new high-speed CM EF to E mount adapter. Now, when I was approached by Commlite about doing this review, I initially was very intrigued because they were saying all of the right things, reporting things like high-speed autofocus, like correct EXIF data reporting, firmware updatable, a lot of different things that I really like the sound of, communicating information, and so that Sony's in-body image stabilization works properly. All of those things, the ability to switch between, much like you can do with, say, the Metabone's 5th generation or 4th generation, the ability to switch between phase detect and contrast AF modes. All of that stuff sounded very good to me. And so anyway, I was very excited. But as we're going to see in this review, unfortunately, the reality doesn't meet the expectations. You may have seen that pulled out here on YouTube a time or two. So let's take a look at what's positive about this. I've got actually a couple of these adapters here, and so one thing that I do want to point out, this one I've got the tripod foot off, but unlike the Sigma MC11, and that's the primary one I'm going to compare it to, price-wise, the Sigma is still more expensive, but it's closer to that, and certainly a lot closer to the Sigma than to the Metabones. Though in a lot of ways, some of the behaviors are more similar to Metabones than they are to the MC11. But positive here is that unlike the Sigma MC11, you have a nicely built, by the way, constructed a removable tripod foot here, which enables you to, with longer glass, to be able to, when you're going to a tripod, to mount on the tripod, and so you're putting less stress on the actual mount and also getting a better balance with everything. And so that's certainly a plus, and as noted, the build quality of this is very nice. It seems very sturdy, and unlike some of these removable tripod foots, it actually engages nicely. Some of them I find that you have a really hard time kind of initiating any kind of actual loosening or particularly with tightening, but as you can see, it tightens up there nicely. That's positive. Also, as noted, unlike the MC11, MC11 only supports Canon EF mount lenses, and so physically, for example, I have the EFS 24mm f2.8 lens here. I cannot physically mount that on the MC11. It simply does not mount. It does not allow you to use EFS lenses. And so it's certainly a positive for those of you that have APS-C glass that you want to adapt, that you can mount EFS lenses on there and they work just fine. So that's certainly a plus there for Commlite. Another plus is that, and an advantage when compared to the MC11, is that the Sigma does not correctly report lens information for any lenses save Sigma lenses. And so you're going to get kind of generic type terms. For example, when I get to the one lens that I've kind of used across a number of adapters, and I kind of use it as a benchmark because it's an amazing lens, and it's one that I would love to be able to adapt wonderfully, and that is Canon's 35mm f1.4L Mark II, an amazing lens. But for example, with the MC11, it reports as something like DT SAM 35mm f1.4. With the this Commlite adapter, it does report it correctly as the right lens. And I found that to be true with most the Canon lenses that I put on there. However, if you're going outside of Canon lenses, you know, for example, if I tried to mount some Tamron or Sigma lenses there, what it will do is revert to the nearest equivalent Canon lens in the XF data. So example, I put the Tamron 70-200 f2.8 G2 lens on there, and it reported it as Canon 70-200 f2.8 LIS Mark II. And so, I mean, pros and cons. Of course, as noted, you do have the ability to switch between contrast and phase detect. Now, the way that you do that, there's a button here, but it's not so simple as just hitting it live. What you've got to do is you've got to dismount the lens, and so the connection is broken. Remount the lens, and as you turn on the camera, you hold down that button, and then it will switch to the different mode. Now, just so you know that in phase detect, if you're going into your options for focus modes, you only have AFS and AFC available to you. In contrast, you have all focus modes available to you. Obviously, you would have manual focus available to you as well. But in contrast, you have all focus modes available to you. And so, of course, the ability to switch in between those is positive. Now, some pros for this that it shares with the Sigma is that both of them are firmware updatable. Sigma has two advantages here, however. One of those is that the actual little cover that goes over the port of the firm area where you update the firmware, once you remove that, it is very hard to fit it back in. It took me probably close to 10 minutes, you know, of fiddling around before I was able to get it to seat properly again. And so, it's also fully detachable, which means there's a good chance you're going to end up losing it somewhere along the way, or just giving up and trying to reattach it. Sigma's MC11 has a better setup here to where the port, opens, then you can seat it back down very easily, and it stays connected at all time. The other thing too is that the process for delivering firmware updates is a little bit more sophisticated with Sigma because of their software and the ability to very quickly check their firmware updates. Meanwhile, the Commlite's going to require you to go to their website, download the packet, go through a whole process. And so it's just Sigma has the advantage of having a more developed ecosystem for doing that kind of thing. Both of them share the shared advantage of having electronic aperture control with lenses that support that, and with both adapters it works perfectly fine. I had no issues switching aperture on any of the lenses, and I was able to open them up fully to their widest maximum aperture. The in-body image stabilization with both adapters is automatically transferred and seems to work properly from what I can tell. Now, some pros, reasons why you might want to consider the Sigma over the Commlite is that the Sigma provides much better performance with third-party lenses. In fact, with most lenses, it provides much better support, but particularly, of course, if you're talking about Sigma lenses on the MC11 are the closest thing you're going to get to native focus. Also, Tamron lenses focus better with the MC11. I found that third-party lenses really did not focus particularly well with the Commlite, and so it's very much optimized for Canon focus algorithms. I also found with the MC11 that the focus is more confident in general. It locks more quickly, it locks more accurately, it has better focus repeatability. And not to say that I got poor focus results. Actually, in real-world shooting, I got pretty much good focus results with a few exceptions, but even that is unusual because typically I get pretty close to perfect focus accuracy with adapted lenses in this kind of setup. And so I would say that of the adapters I've used, that the focus repeatability on the Commlite was the poorest. I also believe that while the Commlite is better than some that I've seen, that the tolerances on the Sigma MC11 are a little bit better. And what I mean by that is that to get a perfectly balanced sharpness profile across the frame, you have to have very exacting tolerances to make sure that everything is sitting extremely flushly. Sigma seems to have done that pretty well, and I've heard very few negative accusations, and I certainly have no issues with my copy of the MC11. with the Commlite, while it's better than some I've seen in that the corners are not super soft, I did notice that compared to the Sigma, that corner performance on the right side on one of the two adapters, one was better than the other, and even with the better one, I found that the right side performance wasn't quite as good as it was on the MC11. Now, so just talking about autofocus in general, so phase detect with the, of course, I've got lots of lenses to test. I've got a very big kit. And so most of the lenses that I tested, however, phase detect works and it will lock focus, but it gets to focus in stages. It's like it adjusts a little bit forward and then a little bit forward and then a little bit forward, and then it finds focus lock. And that's in AFC mode. In AFS mode, it's lens specific, some that works better than others. Now, if you switch to contrast, contrast actually delivered faster focus for me in a lot of situations. It racks back and forth, but it racks quickly. It's not like kind of that slow and gradual, which I saw some of that behavior, by the way, with Metabones as well. But in contrast mode, it racks back and forth, but it does it quickly and then grabs a focus lock. But that only really works well for AFS mode. If you try to put it in AFC mode, in contrast, what I found is that because it racks, it just keeps racking. And so it goes back and forth, and never achieves a focus lock. And so I don't recommend using it in AFC. And so, by and large, I have to say that I was disappointed by focus speed and overall performance of this adapter. It certainly didn't live up to my expectations. On a positive note, the fact that it is firmware updatable means that there is, of course, the possibility that things will improve as their understanding of focus algorithms improve. You also probably should be pretty careful to look over, if you're considering this new Commlite adapter, to look over their list of compatible lenses, because I found that lenses outside of that list didn't work really all that well, and that's particularly true, as I noted, of third-party lenses. This basically seems to be designed for Canon lenses. The advantage also, though, is that if you're wanting to use EFS lenses, and you've got a number of those, this may be a good option for you. I found that I don't have a lot of EFS lenses, just a couple of them. I found that focus was pretty good, 24mm. I was pretty happy with what I saw there. And so it might be a valid option for you there. It might also be good if you're primarily shooting manual focus, and so it gives you, electronic aperture control, say if you're shooting Zeiss glass, some positives there. The build quality is good. It gives you a tripod foot, which is certainly a positive if you're using heavier lenses. And so there are some positives there, but I would say that if you are considering between the Commlite and the Sigma MC11, particularly if you're getting the MC11 on some kind of deal, I think that it is the better adapter at this point, and it's the one that would get my money if I was plopping it down right now. I'm Dustin Abbott. If you look in the description down below, I do have an image gallery of some of the images that I've taken with the adapter, and of course you can make beautiful pictures because it's however good the glass is that you're putting next to the adapter. And so some pictures you might want to look at there, and there's also some buying links there if you'd like to purchase either the Commlite or the MC11 for yourself. You can follow me on social media, sign up for my newsletter, become a patron, and of course if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.